Lesson 8. What's in a name? While some might agree that a name is not important, many cultures believe that a name helps to define a person. All the way back in Bible times, names were given not just because of how they sounded, but for some reason of significance. Names were passed on from father to son. They were given as prophetic symbols or even out of direct obedience to God. All words carry meaning, even your name. And while a name may be something that was assigned without a deep sense of intention, it can become something of meaning later in your life. Some cultures, such as some of the indigenous tribes that we discussed a few lessons back, might have several names during their lifetime. For example, Chayton, which is a name from the Sioux tribe that means falcon, might be given to a warrior who shows skill or swift speed in battle. In the Bible, Jesus changed the name of Simon to Peter, which means the rock. His name had the deeper meaning, as Jesus said he would build his church on the rock, which meant that Peter would play a great part in building the church. In today's lesson, we're going to learn how the New World received a name, the name America. It seems like it would be a lot of pressure naming two whole continents, but what we will discover is that a simple decision to add a name to a map led to one of the most recognizable country names in modern history. Amerigo Vespucci, like Christopher Columbus, Amerigo Vespucci was a ruler, or rather an explorer. However, unlike Columbus, exploration was not his lifelong dream. Instead, it wasn't until Amerigo was in his 40s that he decided to explore the world. Born in Florence, Italy, to a wealthy family, Vespucci spent his youth receiving an education. In his 20s, feeling pressure from his father, he decided to go into business. He eventually made his way to Spain to work in the world of banking. During this time, Vespucci heard that explorers were seeking a route to the Indies by heading west. Do you recall why heading west was such a novel concept? This idea intrigued him, but it wasn't until years later when he met Christopher Columbus that his mind interest turned into a dream. He desired to see the world and make a name for himself. So in 1497, he set out on his first voyage across the sea. His first two journeys were funded by the same monarchs who paid Christopher Columbus to sail across the Atlantic. Do you remember their names? A New World. Why is it not clear exactly how many voyages Vespucci, I'm sorry about that, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, embarked upon? His third in 1501 is considered the most important. It was during this trip that he realized the land he, Columbus, and others had been exploring was most likely a continent that they had not known about before. This was an important discovery. But while Amerigo received many credits for this realization, his hunch actually came from a 1498 records of Columbus, who felt that his new land was so vast it must be its own continent. Still, it was Vespucci's letter documenting this discovery and letting Europe know that the land Columbus discovered was not Asia, but in fact a new world that would secure his name in the history books. If you want to dig deeper, you can dig and find out what is a continent, how many there are, on which continent do you live, and do you know how each continent received its name. Do a little research and find out a little more. America on the map. Several years ago, in 1507, a group of French scholars were working on a geography book which contained large cuts out of the map. One of the cartographers, Martin Waldseemüller, I do not know if that's pronounced right, suggested The recently discovered New World should be labeled America in honor of Amerigo Vespucci. This original name was given to what is now known as South America, and this important map shows America as a separate continent than Asia. This discovery changed how explorers viewed the sea. There was now a continent between Europe and Asia, and a new ocean, the Pacific, had been defined. Then, in 1538, renowned cartographer Georges Mercator came to the realization that America actually had a northern region as well, which he labeled American, I cannot pronounce it, North America. Both Europe and the newly named Americas would never be the same. To this day, there is still a great debate over the name America. There are many who feel that because Columbus was the first European to explore the new continent for the purpose of expansion, it should have been named after him. However, this is not the way history unfolded, and yet we can't help but wonder, if the continent had been named after Christopher, what would America be called? Perhaps Columbia? How did America become united? From the moment Vespucci laid eyes on America to the day it has become populated and divided up into states, nearly 300 years has passed. You'll have to keep studying history to learn the fascinating events that filled those years, but for now we'll fast forward in 1776. The east coast of America is no longer wild woodlands, but populated towns with dirt roads, wooden buildings, and people mulling about in European clothing. A group of men are gathered in a town hall, lining up to take turns signing for the military. But this moment is far more important. In this moment, as the guns and cannons of the Revolutionary War boomed miles away, the Declaration of Independence was signed. Many know that this document officially separated the colonies from Great Britain, but few know that America's name, its very identity, was changed with this piece of paper. At this point in time, there were 13 colonies along the East Coast, and their title of colony implied that they were in subjection to a larger country and not a country of their own. In fact, it was common at this time for larger, more powerful countries to have colonies across the globe. These colonies were groups of people that were given areas of land to make a living, but they were never free from their parent country. To be a colony meant your laws were decided for you. You worked to tame harsh land that was neither your home nor your country, and your economy churned to keep another more important economy thriving. While the author of the Declaration of the infamous Thomas Jefferson, it was another man that suggested a specific term to be written in. This man's name was Richard Henry Lee, and he suggested the terminology that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states. Much like God is known for speaking life into existence and truth over our circumstances, mankind is also gifted with the power of speech, the power to speak life and identity over one another. The founders of America did that when they stopped identifying America as in submission to a greater country. They spoke new identity and strength into small civilization, calling them states and essentially implying they were now free to choose their own choice and to make their own governments that reflected the will and desire of the people who lived there. From 1776 on, America was no longer one large tract of land. It was no longer a chopped up section of colonies adhering to an overseas monarch. The country became the United States of America, signifying unity, strength, and independence that would shape the rest of history. The end.